welcome to Boss versus Coach. Uh, Last episode we spoke about our book for pre-orders on Amazon India. The book is gonna be on Amazon Global in the coming week. I would encourage you all to please place your orders and be a part of this journey from boss to coach. Our Instagram handle and LinkedIn is known to you, so please do follow us there and put your feedback and suggestions. And in case you wish to be a part of any of these podcasts, please do let us know, and we'll be happy to have you on the show. Because again, as I say always, it is not about me or you; it's about us. And unless we all come together and work towards this transformative journey, it won't happen. Talking about the podcast tonight, we are gonna talk about empathy in leadership. People don't leave bad jobs; they leave bad bosses. Empathy is not about being nice; it's about being fair, being transparent, and courageous enough to do what is right. Very often, we face scenarios where promotions are denied in the name of readiness. Growth is held back in the name of preparedness. You must have came across situations where you have been told that you are doing a fabulous job, but we would like to wait a little more before we promote you. Or we want to groom you before we take you to the next level. You must have came across situations where leaders comes to you, your bosses comes to you, tells you what they feel of them, of yourself, tells what they want from you without putting an ear to listen what you want to speak and what you actually want. So this is no empathy. Being nice is no empathy unless the person is really echoing the sentiments of the other person. We're gonna talk about the power of empathy and how empathy in leadership is need to be. Because empathy is not about being nice, it's always about being fair, transparent, and courageous enough to do what is right, as I said in the beginning. So I have with me my co-host Olivia. Olivia, what's your thought on empathy? And is it all about being nice, as I said, or is it much more and something which leaders need to know?
I wouldn't say it's about being nice. I think my understanding of empathy is it's feeling for someone's feelings, seeing their humanity. So when you recognize that someone is fully human, you can recognize that they can have joy and they can have challenge and they can have all of the emotions, and being able to sit with the fact that is a complete person with emotion. That is to show empathy. I think it's kind of important to recognize it's not the same as feeling sympathy for someone. So sympathy is feeling with someone. So when I feel that you are sad, my sympathetic side comes out and I feel sad with you. And I'd say that the challenge for that, for most people at work, is you can't bounce around feeling everybody's feelings. You can walk through life recognizing their feelings and being respectful of the fact that they are valid, whatever they are, and they are there for their own reasons. So for me, empathy, yeah, is it about being nice? Well, I think it's quite nice to be empathetic, but it's not about being a nice sort of friendly person just being lovely to everyone. It's about recognizing their happiness, their rage, their jealousy,
Absolutely.
their upset, whatever it is, and recognizing that that's important for them.
But why do leaders often misconstrue empathy with only being polite, only being nice, only saying good things while they not mean them actually, and then creating that serious vacuum of not giving the right confidence, right safety, and right comfort to their teams, as a result of which we see attritions, we see people which are disengaged, dissatisfied, while the leaders always keep claiming them being nice, then being people's person, then being people's leader.
Oh, doesn't sound like a lot of self-awareness in that particular story in the back of your mind. I think emotional intelligence is what empathy is part of. And to be emotionally intelligent, you have to first of all recognize your own emotions and be able to label them and notice them and manage them. If you can't do that for yourself, you're not going to do it for anyone. And we've talked in previous podcasts about emotional intelligence and resilience and recognizing your own stuff inside. Um, For a lot of leaders, feelings are horrid, soppy stuff that we leave at home, that are for kids, that aren't for us rough, tough business people. So if that's your view, then empathy is not going to come into it at all because you're not worried about anyone else's feelings.
Agreed, Olivia. So let's introduce our guests tonight. We have got two very special guests who will help us understand how can empathy be brought in leadership, and what does empathy actually mean for us to be a leader. So, Olivia, would you like to introduce our first guest tonight?
Yeah, so I'd love to welcome Parita. So Parita's been a colleague and a dear friend of mine for some time. And over the last 3 years, she's been building up a practice in coaching, really focusing on family. She can speak more to that herself. I'd just like to say she has been a really inspiring person to me. We speak about empathy. She really is someone who recognizes emotion in herself and others and works with it and around it and cares about it. And she's, for that reason, always been someone very dear to me. But Parita, tell us about your practice and what you're doing.
Absolutely. So, hi, Mohit and Olivia. Thank you for
Mhm.
having me on Boss versus Coach. So, I am the founder and coach behind Awareify Coaching, and I work primarily with professional women and working parents because I am a professional woman. I'm also a working parent. And so, I come from the perspective of I like to coach people where I can have some empathy for where they are in this season of life. My coachees and I work through a lot of overwhelm, burnout, guilt, self doubt. And we work on that feeling of being stuck where you are. And my goal with my coaches is to help them get from where they are currently to where they want to be, where they're thriving personally and professionally, while setting boundaries, while reclaiming that self cheerleader, right? Becoming that best version of themselves and seeing themselves in the best light so that they can move forward well after our coaching engagement has ended.
Welcome, Perry, to the show.
Thank you.
So the second guest tonight is Pragya Sharma. Pragya Sharma is an architect and master planner, and she's an aspiring coach, I would say. She has got an inclination and passion towards coaching, like most of us, and she has been contributing to various leadership articles and talks from time to time. Pragya has been to our show in past, and we welcome you once more, Pragya.
Thank you, Mohit. Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for having me here for the Boss versus Coach series. And yeah, I'm a people's person, so this is the best place for me to express myself. And let's just explore today.
So let's move on to the discussions for tonight. So, Verita, empathy is often misconstrued as being soft, as being nice. But as I was asking Olivia, is it all about being nice, or is it something beyond which a leader needs to understand?
So I think there's a key difference between being nice and being kind, right? There's a nice person who will tell you what you want to hear. They'll be kind, they'll be nice to your face, but what they're feeling deeply inside may not be reflected in the way that they are communicating with you, whether that's through body language or their words themselves. And I think kindness is much deeper. And I think I relate kindness to empathy in that with empathy, even if you have never experienced a day like that person has experienced, if you've never been remotely in the shoes that that person's in, there's something in you that seeks deeper understanding of that experience that they're having so that you don't dismiss them right away. So if you're, let's say, for example, your employee comes into work late, for a week every day, instead of thinking, wow, like this person's a slacker, or they're lazy, or they can't get up, right? Whatever judgments come to mind, an empathetic leader would say, okay, I'm somebody who's timely. I like getting to work an hour before I have to. What could be going on for this person? To me, that is the kinder approach, which is also the more empathetic approach.
Uh, Pragya, your thoughts on is it all about being nice?
I think, Mohit, it is more about the, that softness or the care which one person can provide to the other person. Because that true empathy, which we are talking about, that involves a genuine care for other person, how it feels to be in their shoes, and understanding the other person, their personal challenges. So, I would not say it is just limited to just being nice, but it also revolves around being caring towards the other person and understanding their perspective. And it will come when one person is basically having the shared experience with that other person. When leaders have the similar experience, they tend to understand their peers more as compared to people who are not often into the same situations. So not just being nice, but care is something which is an integral part of empathy.
I'm going to pick a hole in that. There you go. Start off with a bit of controversy. Um, I don't think that you have to have understood someone and their context, or even like someone, to have empathy. And there's some really interesting work around what secret services call tactical empathy. And in coaching and NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, we talk about being able to recognize that all behavior has a good intention. Now, that can be quite a challenge because people say, what, for a serial killer? It's like, yeah, but there is an intention. We just don't understand it yet. So the intention could be it's for some reason in their head that is giving them peace of mind. It's not nice, using the nice word again. It's not good in terms of our values. And yet there is an intention there where that person's brain is trying to get the right outcome for that person. If I can get to the point of recognizing that that person is doing something for a good intention I don't understand and possibly never will, then I can empathize with their position without liking them, without having sympathy, without anything else. So it's kind of, to me, empathy is really interesting for that reason, because you can reach inside yourself and go, I'm going to be generous to this person despite who they are and what they're doing. So just a thought there.
I would agree. And I would say nothing has taught me how to be more empathetic than becoming a mom, because you're raising children in a world that is completely different than when I was growing up. I'm raising children that aren't always like me. So it's hard to understand behavior. But something I heard a while back was that no one is trying, to your point, Olivia, no one is trying to make you upset. Nobody walks around like, how can I ruin their day? My kids are not saying, ooh, I want to upset mommy, I'm going to throw a tantrum, right? Like, they're not coming at it from their perspective. Everybody's a little more self-serving in that way. So I agree. I don't think we necessarily have to even be able to see or ever have lived in that person's shoes or have any shared experiences, but it's coming at, say, what could be going on for them right now? That's a question I ask myself all the time as a mom. Like, what could be happening? What just triggered this little human to throw herself on the ground, right? And so I think that that helps bring about empathy, because it helps switch that perspective from you to them. And that can, you can do that with anybody. It's harder with some people, I will say, but you are able to do that.
I would just like to add on to the same, Parita, and I think that one of the greater reason to this is because there's no constant of negative feeling or any kind of competition. The kind of example which you just gave, it was all in a supportive environment. So if we tend to create that supportive environment, we will automatically achieve what we are driving for.
Yeah, agree.
Okay, so let's change the perspective little. So Perita, it is often said that tough love builds resilience. But at what point of time does tough love becomes a blind spot and it start pushing people away than just lifting them up?
Well, I think one thought that comes to mind automatically is that it becomes a blind spot when you stop taking their perspective into consideration. When you stop asking yourself, what could this person be experiencing along every step of that journey? So, I think tough love is very much needed sometimes. I think that that's a part of empathy in helping people grow, especially, I mean, I should say a part of leadership in helping people grow and, rise to the level of their potential. I think sometimes that tough love can be misplaced, if you will, if we stop, like I said, if we stop taking that person's perspective, their experiences into consideration and bringing them into the journey, right? By asking the questions, asking the why questions, digging deeper, and making decisions based on your own assumptions about what could be happening for them.
Olivia?
Yeah. I mean, I totally agree. I think it comes back to for me, my definition of kindness is that if you really have that person's best, I can't even think of the words tonight, best intentions, you really want them to do well, to thrive, to grow, to meet their potential. If all of that is true, then yes, you can be quite challenging. I would still say I would like the person to know why, and so it's about talking it out. It's like, say, I appreciate that this won't feel great. Sometimes when you're giving someone some feedback, and you can't always make it rosy and lovely, sometimes you've really got to say, this wasn't okay. Here is a boundary. But if you're doing it to help them grow and to help them thrive, then it's love, tough or otherwise.
Yes, agreed. My other thought for all of you is that, as I said in the beginning, that leaders feel that they are truly empathetic because they feel that they are nice, they are polite, they always talk to their team members in a softer tone, and always try to keep a happy moment around. So, how can you, as coach, help them realize or help them revisit their understanding on empathy? Because they won't otherwise agree, and wherever you go in any setup, everybody will say, I'm empathetic, I'm empathetic, and I'm empathetic. But how can we make them revisit their understanding and then work upon it? Olivia, Rita,
Yeah,
anyone?
no, you didn't direct it at anyone, so I think we were all looking at each other going,
Okay,
it's not
okay.
me. Um, I think if someone's sitting there saying, "Oh, I'm lovely to everyone, and I give everyone smiles and sweets, and I'm really kind, so how empathetic am I?" I would suggest that they learn what empathy is, because all of that stuff doesn't actually sound authentic, unless they are absolutely delighted with everyone 24/7 and enjoy giving sweets to people all the time. I don't understand how they believe it to be authentic, empathetic, or authentic. So I think if someone and people have come to me as a coach and say, well, I've got all of these things done. I'm like, okay, well, describe to me the behavior, explain to me what you believe this means, and then we can talk about where do you want to go with it. Because it's like anything, we can get so lost in our words. And like I say, you say empathy, and probably 9 out of 10 people have really quite different understandings of what that word means. So I think the first thing always is to seek understanding of what's your definition and how do you portray that trait. So I don't know if that answers your question. I kind of went off on one.
No, it's
Well,
good.
and I'll just
Apparently,
build on
yes.
that, Mohit. Yeah, I was just going to say, I think that awareness is absolutely key. And then I think the other thing is it's very easy to sit back as a leader and think, I am wonderful. I am empathetic. I'm a great leader. I've done all these things, and that's why I've risen to the top. But I think another piece of this is feedback. So, what do your people think? How do the people you lead see you? Do they see you as being empathetic, as you agree to that definition? Do they see you as somebody who can step into their shoes, or ask the question of, well, what is this person feeling today? And I think that feedback is absolutely critical. Otherwise, it's just a label that you're putting on yourself. um, but the truth is really in the data. The truth is really when you dig deeper into your organization and you understand what other people are saying about your leadership style. So
So very often, in my conversations with some of the leaders, I understand that they have this dilemma that if they are empathetic or they are seen empathetic towards their employees, how will they go hard on them when the time demands, or how will they fire them? Because people always feel that I am so empathetic, I am so soft. Oh my God, how will I scold him, or I put him to action? And their bosses at the top feel that this guy is so too soft to handle a team, and he gets another fire from the top. So how can a leader overcome this dilemma of being empathetic and yet ready to take action when the situation demands?
Mohit, I think a leader can be empathetic at the same time. The same person can be assertive also at the same moment. What he or she needs to do is just ensuring that they are addressing the right issue and addressing the issue more firmly with part of understanding the other person's perspective also. So it boils down to empathy versus being soft spoken. Being empathetic doesn't necessarily mean being soft spoken. Empathy is about understanding the other person in a more lenient way and responding to other people's emotions, while being soft spoken, because it is a communication style. And more or less, many a times, a lot of people, they usually mix performance indicators with being soft spoken. So we should avoid this pitfall of picture perfect leadership, because vulnerability is very important for any leader, for the coach also, while balancing empathy and performance, is what I think.
Thanks, Pragya. Parita, over to you.
Yeah, I was just thinking a little bit about, I agree with Pragya, and I also think that, gosh, okay. So as a leader, when you choose to be empathetic, that does not mean you are choosing not to set expectations, to set your vision for your team. All of that to me is sort of the foundation of leadership, right? And then I think the other piece of this is sometimes back to Olivia's point about definition. I think a lot of people misconstrue an empathetic leader with a therapist. You're not your team's therapist, right? You're not there to take on everything and guide them in life. You're there as almost just somebody to not dismiss them, not to make them feel that they are unheard, to build trust. And that's how you build empathy within a leader in a organization as a leader. But I think the absolute truth is that we still have to set expectations. We still have to say, this is what is expected of you. And you do that through empathy, right? The empathy is who you are, it's how you behave. But the fundamentals of business still have to remain. You have your KPIs, you have expectations, you have values that the team has to abide by. You have certain norms that the team has to abide by, right? And that's how you create that culture of performance without compromising the culture of empathy, of understanding what other people are going through. Because, like Olivia said at the very beginning, this is about our collective humanity. Olivia's probably heard me say this many times, but I always say, I'm like, we spend more time at work than we do at home with the people we love and care about. And sometimes we're with the people we love and care about, but our mind is still at work, right? And so I think sometimes we forget that we're just humans, but we're at work, but we still play all these other roles, right? And so empathy is who we are, and but the expectations still have to be there.
Olivia, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I was just thinking the idea that you're empathetic when someone's maybe like sad and needs buoying up and nice, and then you have to be able to the words scold them and maybe fire them and be horrible to them. It's like, well, actually, if someone's performing really badly, that is the time to bring out the empathy. That is the time to say, I need you to hear me. And if you're doing that by shouting, I can tell you, physiologically, they stop hearing you because they go into fight or flight and freeze and all of those brilliant things. And the hearing stops. When you can actually sit with someone, sit with their pain of being told, you're not doing the great job, or we've run out of money, I'm having to let people go, or whatever it is. And you really sit with their pain, disappointment, anger, whatever it is, and let them have it. And then you're meeting them on the other side of that and saying, so what happens next? If you're just the mean boss who goes, right, you're fired, you're out the door, well, that is so much worse. That is so much worse for everybody, for the company's reputation, for the people involved. So, yeah, I think it does come down to this misunderstanding of what the heck it's all about, this empathy stuff.
We can now significantly conclude that empathy will rather enhance the performance.
Mm-hmm.
So empathy does not mean, compromising onto the performance part. In fact, it will enhance it. Because when a leader comes to the role, when he sets high standards while being supportive and understanding towards team members, it actually enhances everyone's performance. So that necessary support, if it is coming through that factor of empathy, it will actually help the team members to grow and understand more.
So interesting conversation. We are moving towards the end of the show, so I would like to have your views on our viewers who are leaders, who are mid managers, on if they want to self-assess themselves as someone who is leading with empathy. What one exercise or one trait would you suggest them to work upon or measure within themselves to see if they are really bringing out the real sense out of empathy, or they are just behaving nice and dealing with that misconstruction in their mind. Perita, over to you, then Olivia, Pragya.
Yeah. So I think one thing that I try to do regularly, especially now that I see myself as a leader in my household as well, as a mom, is just to regularly reflect and journal on my triggers. So I look at the day as a whole and I think about, what were the things that triggered me? Where were my buttons pushed and how did I respond in the moment? Did I give my most generous interpretation to my children, to my coachees, to the people that I'm trying to build relationships with in my business? Or did I jump to conclusions? Did I make assumptions? Did I impress upon my own belief system onto that situation? And I think over time, if you start to document that and really reflect on it daily, you have to commit to the practice. You'll start to see the patterns and you'll start to understand, this isn't actually about anybody else. It's actually about you, because I really do think empathy starts well before you take that leadership position, well before, it starts in the home at a young age, right? And so to kind of dig back and kind of think about who you are as a person, where some of these reactions come from, especially when they're not empathetic, when they're not kind, when they're not understanding, and kind of dig at why that's happening. I think that's absolutely powerful because that's data, right? Everything about that is data. It's giving you information on how to make changes that will be more sustainable, that will be things you can consistently do, that will not only help you be a more empathetic leader, but you'll be able to apply those skills in the right way for the people that you have these triggering situations with, right? So the way I deal with things with my son is different than my daughter, is different than my husband, is different than my colleagues, right? It's different across the board. And so that data, those patterns will give you an understanding of that. That's where I would suggest people start.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Perita. Olivia.
I love that. And I was thinking about reflective practice myself. I read something really interesting the other day, is that an actual emotion will stay with you probably for a maximum of 90 seconds. And yet you can choose to carry it. And people say, I didn't choose. You choose to carry it by holding it with you and holding it tight for as long as you want. But you're giving something an importance that maybe it doesn't deserve, but it's affecting you and no one else. So I do think that emotional literacy is kind of where I'd go to. And I think I love the noting your own triggers. I think that's really important. I think there's also something about, when I say emotional literacy, a lot of people don't know how to label their own feelings. And I think if you're going to be empathetic and understand other people's feelings, it's great to start with yourself. So a similar thing to looking at your triggers is looking at your emotions. So if at the end of a day, you can sit down and go, okay, so where was I happy? Where was I joyous? Where was I sad? Where was I remorseful? And just use a really wide number of words and just see where would I feel that and how would I recognize it, so that you get more adept at saying, no, that's a different type of emotion. And you can get, there's a beautiful thing which is an emotions wheel, where it sort of like it's basically a thesaurus of what emotions are and how you can differentiate. And the more you get eloquent around being able to label these things, the more you can see them in someone else and recognize what's going on for them. Long answer, but I think that's where I would start. Understand your emotions.
Very true. Pragya, you would like to contribute?
Yes, Mohit. So I have had enough of, thoughts onto this, how to practically develop empathy and what I usually seek in other people, what people seek in me. So I have done a lot of brainstorming on this. The final baseline which I can share with you is I think for every person it differs. Like if the kind of rudeness which we are getting, I can get that optimum level or the frustration level at 10%. For somebody else, it will be 20. For somebody else, it will be 80%. So understanding each perspective and dealing everyone in the way has to be is very important. And few of the practical tips which might be helpful for developing the kind of empathy in leadership would be active listening, because when I am frustrated, I would really want my coach or my manager to listen to me patiently. I would like that person to pay full attention to kind of problems I am facing and not just adjourning those, not just keeping them aside that these are the normal things happening to every now and then and you shouldn't carry it forward. But active listening is something which I usually seek in people. Secondly, it can be having a diverse perspective within the teams, because engaging with different people from different backgrounds, like how we are doing now, it actually broadens everyone's horizon of thinking how empathy should be. And one more thing is showing appreciation. It need not to be a very star mark thing, but showing appreciation for every little achievement on a regular basis, it enhances the contributions more. It is a very simple gesture like thank you, or recognizing anyone publicly, like yeah, this person has done this thing. So these are the small triggers, the negative triggers also and the positive triggers also. So when a leader is having, all these things in a day-to-day practice, these are the practical tips which will actually help developing empathy within a team.
Thank you, Pragya, Perita, and Olivia for such insightful discussion. We are coming to the end of our show. But I could conclude out of the entire piece is that empathy is not about being soft. It's rather about being strong enough to understand, adapt, and lead with impact. So it's all about creating the impact and not just going soft. On that note, thank you very much for coming and discussing such interesting insights on leading with empathy. And I request the viewers to keep following Boss versus Coach. Reach out to Perita for any advice, any coaching guidance that you require. And do pre-order the book, which is live on Amazon, and be a part of this transformative journey. Thank you very much. Good night and goodbye.
Thanks
Thank
all.
you.
Cheers.
Thanks.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Bye.
Thank you.
everyone.
Hi, I'm Arpita Magan, and I'm here to share how the Boss vs. Coach series by Mohit Kullar gave me a fresh perspective on leadership. I learned that leadership is about inspiring potential and not just extracting results. A great leader is the one who helps their team grow and support them in both their personal and professional goals. It also highlighted how perfectionism can hold us back by the fear of failure. That helped me appreciate small progress and embrace imperfections. It also emphasized on creating a psychologically safe environment for creativity, trust, and open communication. Leadership is about empathy, growth, and empowering others to reach their full potential. Do watch the full series on LinkedIn and YouTube. It's a game changer.